Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live. Hope you guys are well today. Happy Tuesday. We are going to discuss an article I wrote recently on a study done by Team Red, White, and Blue. If you guys aren't familiar with Team Red, White, and Blue, you might have seen their shirts. Look pretty cool. Team RWB on side. They're out there doing fun things with veterans. Um, and just helping them overall um, be better. In fact, here's the article. I wrote it on military.com. It's called How Group Exercise Can Do More for Veterans Than Going Solo. So it's just a little study they did. They have a process of coaching and just being around each other, mentorship, transitioning out of the military into civilian life and doing things together, just creating a community. And their goal is enriching veteran lives. And I highly recommend checking it out if you are a veteran. And you can also volunteer as a civilian too. They take all types. But yeah, check out the article. It's pretty good. They realized that after reading a couple of other studies that um, veterans' health is worse today than their civilian counterparts. So it has been imperative for them to create a program, and they have a scale called the Enriched Life Scale, which is multiple pillars, they call them physical health, mental health, social relationships, and a sense of purpose. So sometimes when you get out, you miss out on your current social relationships, they're gone. Your sense of purpose is gone. And if you're not taking care of yourself anymore with group PTs and other physical activities, your physical and mental health can soon start to fade too, and you're going to see it turn into what's called metabolic syndrome, which is a wide range of ailments that lead to horrible life-ending disease. Right, so it starts off with high blood pressure, cholesterol, body weight, blood sugar, triglycerides, body circumference measurements. If those are all out of whack, you're on a 10-year process to seeing things like diabetes, heart attack, heart disease, um, cancers. So it's very serious. And if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, it's time to start doing it, because what you do now is going to help you be able to do things better in your 50s. What you do in your 50s going to make you be more mobile and being able to move better in your 60s. So what you do now is like a savings account for your next decade. So don't worry about what you haven't done in the last 20 or 30 years. Start today. And if anybody's thinks that it's too late, all you got to do is go back just a few lives that I just did. I did one on the endurance runner Cliff Young from Australia, who turned the running world upside down at age 61 in his first endurance race that he ever ran. And he just kicked everybody's ass because he just kept running versus sleeping 6 hours every night like all the other competitors. And um, quite a story, like tortoise in the hare story, literally. So yeah, check out that live, especially if you need a little inspiration on getting started if you haven't done anything in decades. But yeah, that's what this is all about. The ageless athlete. We help people in their 50s and over, keep moving. It's a beginner, intermediate guide. If you think that is not what you need, maybe it needs to be the 40 and over, right? So every time I hit the 40s, midway through the 40s, I wrote tactical fitness over 40. And it's ideal for veterans, especially if you've done 20 years in, or if you even did 5 or 10 and you just been so busy the last decade getting your life straight and working hard and doing things like that, you just let your health go. It's a great process to get started again. It introduces Mobility Day, and it's life changing. Over 50, when I was 55, I wrote this one and introduced double mobility days into the week. And that's also life changing. In fact, there have been people who are in their 20s and 30s doing these programs and seeing the same results as someone who's in their 40s and 50s. And we also have people in their 70s even doing the 50 and over program. So it's not really set up for any particular age. It just has a solid, progressive, beginner, intermediate, advanced process to it that I just happen to feel that is very helpful. So somebody says they watched the movie Cliffy. Yeah, Cliff Young, man, that was a trip, wasn't it? I thought that was pretty fun. So, all right. So that's my intro. Team Red, White, and Blue. Check out. I put a link to that article I just showed into the uh, it's over up to channel, but you can find it on Instagram. I'm sorry, on Google. If you just go in Team Red, White, and Blue, you'll see their website and the study link to it. My article on that study you can find on military. My name in the search up. The iron sharpens. I think he sets, and we were run by the time that you've run 5, and each one of them were like they're running fast. I was like, dang, you guys are putting out pretty good, like hitting 3-minute 3:15, and um, multiple 800s. I mean, that's like 10 800s. And I said, "Oh man, I was just keeping up with him. Oh, I was keeping up with you." So they were they were pushing each other and didn't even know it. So that's typically what happens whenever you have a group of like-minded people who like to work out together, whether it's a neighbor or a buddy at the gym that you see at 5 a.m. The early morning crew. They usually get after it, and that's always a good place to find like-minded people. All right, guys, I got to take some questions here, so send them. I'm happy to answer them. I may show some CSS videos um, if I get through all these questions real quick. Looks like I will. There's only a few questions here. So let's see. Hey, Stu, I can't do a full week on your programs because we repeat that week until we can. Oh, if we can't do a full week on one of your programs, should we repeat that week before proceeding to the next? No. Here's what I would do. There's no rule that, for instance, here's a week of workouts, right? This is 6 workouts in 1 week. So, do you have to do that in 7 days? There's no rule that says you have to do that in 7 days. If it takes you 8 or 9 days to get those 6 workouts done, that's fine. Just move on to the next. Notice I don't say in my workout books Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So if you have 5 days of workouts in a program, The goal is, yes, try to get those 5 days and 7 day week, and then you start the next week. But if you can't, no big deal. There's just keep on moving. No need to repeat. I mean, if you like a week in the program, absolutely repeat it. Or if you missed a few of the workouts, you were sick or bit it over again, repeat. This is for Army realize program be smart done when you have before. Right? That's just one way to wind up in the hurt locker to and not be able to work out at all. So pull back a little bit on some of these reps and sets and miles and do the program as is. And let's just say you're going to cut back 25% on the whole thing because currently that's what you need to do. Then go through the whole program at 25% off and then come back around and do it again at 100%. Once again, you're paying $20 for these things and they are generic programs. If you want something more personalized, that usually requires higher costs and understanding your capabilities and your facilities and your equipment, your time per day, days per week, all that stuff has to go into account to personalize it for you. So you have to do that. In fact, I wrote an article on just doing that, teaching you how to do that. In fact, it's right here. For some reason it's called test article, but it is actually, if you read the actual title, it is called Adapting Programs to Your Level of Performance and Still Reach Your Goals. So check that out. Good morning, Stu. Hit the like button. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I basically live on likes over here, so I appreciate that. Hey, let's show some CSS videos, shall we? Got a couple I wanted to show. Looks like I may need to go into my Instagram again and pick them up. Let me see here. I had a problem with pulling these up the other day. Though, so that's good. All right, so here's the deal. Let's do this. I have a whole bunch of videos here that we're going to go through. And you guys let me know if you guys can see them or if you have questions about these swims. All right, so it looks like we're starting off with an underwater swim. So let's see what this looks like. Kick off the wall, glide. I like that. Very effortless. Probably a little too close to the bottom to actually get a good double arm pull. But that was like, what, 3 arm pulls? There's 4. And remember, these are non-swimming athletes doing swimming. So that's 5 strokes. Oh, he turns around, comes back, kicks off. Oh, I didn't realize he was doing a 50. It's pretty good. Now you notice what is he doing? He's relaxed. He's not like a lot of people just stroke, 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 and they're just exhausted at the end. If you notice, this is really just holding your breath like you're walking. And he did that for 52 seconds and got himself 52 or 50 yards in it. I forgot we did an underwater swim the other day. That was good. All right, let's see what else we have over here. All right, so gonna kick off the wall, double arm pull, transitions out, not bad. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. I like this. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Now, I like to turn my head with that top arm. If you notice, in fact, right, you can see it right here. Like his head should be out of the water right there. It's just a split second off, but it does help with, not having to cram breathing, bottom arm pulling, and turning all into one movement. We'll show it here again. See right here, kick. See, I usually like to pretend I have a string tied to my hand and my nose. And when that hand pulls past my face, it pulls my face out of the water. Keep that bottom ear in the water. He does that. He's just, if you notice what he does here, he's pulling, turning, and breathing all at once. And it just makes for an awkward transition. That's all. It's preference, and it's very nitpicky. I agree, but it could be just a little. It makes it a little smoother when you can turn with the top arm and breathe with the bottom arm versus top arm pulling by itself and then turning, breathing, and pulling all at the same time. So top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Could be a little tighter on that arm recovery. You see that? But it's not horrible. All right, let's do a few more. Then I'll go back to questions. Let's see what this one is here. Good kickoff. Oh, all right. So we already see something's wrong, right? You guys see that top arm, or sorry, he pulls that top arm and lifts his whole head out of the water. You don't want to do that. You want to try to make this, when you pull that top arm, you want to just turn it. So think screwdriver. Turn your head to breathe. Don't pop your head up to breathe like a seesaw. Because what happens, what do you notice? See his feet drop? So as soon as you pop your head up, your feet are going to drop. Versus if you just turn, you stay flat, and you think screwdriver. You turn, you stay flatter in the water, and you're not plowing the water with your entire body. You got this little bit of your body that is going through this little hole versus your entire body just swimming diagonal. So that's the first thing he needs to do. He needs to fix that head popping up out of the water. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. So you can see it. He's got the process of the CSS down. It's just not pretty, and it's all because of that. It's all because of that head popping out of the water. If he just learns to turn to breathe like you're doing freestyle, in fact, that top arm pull is the exact same as if you were going to breathe. Instead of doing this to recover that arm, you are bringing that bottom arm under and recovering both of them underwater. So there you go. All right, let's do one more. Can't remember who I have here. Top arm, bottom arm, or maybe double arm poems like an 830. That's a lot of stroke to get across a 25-yard pool. So we've got to work on being a little more streamlined on your glides, glide a little longer, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi pull. So there you go. What else we got here? You'll see something cool. This is something we did when Blue Angels fly by. I'll leave the volume on. So we all were maxing out deadlifts while the Blue Angels were flying by one day. That was just cool. So it was pretty funny. Some dudes first days ever working out with us, and we show up. Hey, we're gonna go do an afternoon workout at the academy while the Blue Angels fly by, and man, that was funny. Don't know what to tell you about my voice lagging, but that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, so I've shown all my videos here. You guys have any more questions? Looks like we don't. Let me see. What else we got? All right. Let's see. You guys got any more questions? Looks like we don't have any more questions. Come on. Send me a question. Happy to answer some. I'll see what we got in the email boxes for questions if I need to dig in there. JE says he is having trouble with underwater swim, kick, and keeping momentum. Used to do scissor kick on my side in the CSS. Can you help with translation to the underwater kick? Well, I'll tell you this. I think your nomenclature is wrong. You're probably doing a breaststroke kick now versus a scissor kick. My personal recommendation is if you're not a swimming athlete that has spent their life doing a breaststroke kick, probably going to take you longer getting a good breaststroke kick or what you call the underwater kick going well for you. That's just the way it is. Whether it's mobility of the hips, knees, and ankles, or it's power of those, inner thigh muscles, that usually causes a weaker frog kick for people or breaststroke kick. So I can just go scissor kick. In fact, when I swim underwater, I do a scissor kick. I'm better at scissor kick than I am breaststroke kick. I've gotten better at breaststroke kick over the years because I've gotten more mobile and can do egg beater better now because of it. But I don't recommend it. Be honest with you, if you're not good at it, I would say try a scissor kick. If you suck at both, my advice is probably if you're a land athlete, put it this way: think about your hip development. If you're a land athlete and spent most of your time doing this, as I'm running right now with your hips going forward and backwards, right? You're probably not going to be able to do a good whipping breaststroke kick. And you'll be a better scissor kicker once you learn how to do the scissor kick. My advice is read the article, CSS help fix my kick or fix your kick, and do that kick drill that's in it. It's just a kickboard drill that you do 25 yards with. I'll put the comment or in the comment section over here on YouTube, and practice your scissor kick. You can practice the breaststroke kick if you want. I think learning both is helpful. Absolutely. Because it will help you with egg beater and things like that. All right. Let's see what else we have. Any advice on muscle cramps on calf? Hydration, electrolytes. I don't know if you guys ever seen this. Sore and tired. It's a magnesium sulfate formula. It's basically like an Epsom salt bath, but instead of taking an Epsom salt bath, you just rub it on your legs. And I use this when it is so humid that my shoes are squishy. I can wring out sweat in my shirts. Also, get yourself some hydration packets, that are just electrolytes again. And, just be aware of your sweat loss when you're doing things. It's going to happen when you swim with fins, when you run. A lot of times it happens when you run, then swim last. That's a hard one. In fact, every time we do a 4 mile run, 4 mile ruck, and then a 1 mile swim, never fails. Somebody's cramping. So, got to get used to it. Got to understand what it is. And basically, it's your body saying, I need some salt, some form of salt, magnesium, sodium, potassium. So, that's what we do. All right. What else we got here? Any questions over here on Instagram? No? All right. Let me see. I had some questions that popped up on my email, and I forgot to pull them up when you guys started asking questions. All right. So somebody said, PST push-ups. See, I've gotten good. I got a question regarding push-ups on the PST. Currently going through PST phase 1, and good with everything else but push-ups. You can only get 70 push-ups. Well, 70's not horrible. Sit-ups and pull-ups are 85-15. I can get 50. I hit a wall. Any advice on building up to 80 to 100 range for my push-ups? I'm 210 pounds. Haven't been lifting much to build my cows and cardio. Well, sounds like you're doing the right thing. My advice is sometimes you got to be patient with the process and know that it takes time to build up muscle stamina, especially if you've been a strength athlete in a previous life. But you can always get better at push-ups and do bigger sets of push-ups. So it sounds like you've gotten a level of push-ups that you could probably do 200 in a workout, but that's a lot of smaller sets. My advice is instead of doing the smaller sets of push-ups, do bigger sets of push-ups and keep it that same volume. So in a workout where you may see a pyramid 110 to 1 times 2 on the push-ups, that's 19 sets to get 200 push-ups. It's not that hard to do. It's a lot of sets. So instead of doing one of those, try a max rep set version. So you can just skip the push-ups there if you wanted to and do all of your push-ups, spread throughout the workout in as few sets as possible. So how many sets does it take for you to get 200 push-ups? And so you're pushing those max level muscle stamina challenges. That simulates kind of a 2-minute test because it's a muscle stamina, muscle endurance challenge, for those numbers of push-ups. It's not a strength issue. However, you can do this. Something I like to do. I know you said you're not lifting many weights, but try this because if you want to simulate what those last 30 seconds feels like in a push-up 2-minute test, do bench press. Let's say you put on body weight bench and you crank it out. Let's try to get double digits on that. Let's say you can get 12 and you can't get 13, you're done. Then immediately rack the barbell and go to the floor, crank out as many push-ups as you can. And I promise you, it's going to feel like those last 10 push-ups of a 2-minute push-up test. And push it hard. Like you're going to start shaking. Like go to that point. I will say this. You don't want to push past shaking because that is just like a central nervous system breakdown and it uses a lot of energy. So just if you start shaking, just fall because that 1 or 2 reps that you get is not worth the energy drop that's going to occur because of that full body shake. So I hope that helps you with your push-up question. Let's see. Look like some more questions have popped up. Can you take electrolytes at Buds? Yes, you can. You should. Definitely. And if you can't, if you can't take packages like this, which there's Gatorade all over the place, even if it's not powdered form, you can definitely find it. You add it to your foods when you eat. You're going to eat 3 times a day. You just put extra salt on your food and go with that. Would you recommend doing your calisthenics and cardio workout? Thought I had a copy of that one. Yes. There you go. Boom. Calisthenics and cardio workout throughout the day or just workouts in one session. It's up to you. Not everybody has the same schedule. So do it. If you, like, for instance, when you look at that intermediate program, right, the days look like this. All right, so you have a day right here. This is a day. The goal is to get that done in one day. If it takes you 2 sessions, 3 sessions, or it's spread throughout the day, that's fine too. Just get it done in the day. That's the goal. And you know what? Science says it doesn't matter how you break it up. Good pull-up workout, people are asking. Christian is asking. Yeah, there's multiple. My favorite week of training is when I do a PT pyramid, like in fact, we did one today. 1 to 10, back down to 1, pull-ups times 1, push-ups times 2, sit-ups times 3, dips times 1, run 400 yards every set. At the end of that, you've done 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 100 dips, and 4.75 miles of running. It's a good workout. If you want to get a fifth, a 10th, an extra 10 set in there, you could do that and run another quarter mile and get 5 miles. So that's one. The other one is a sub-max rep set of pull-ups, push-ups, and abs. A couple days later, usually Wednesday or Thursday, you do like 10 pull-ups, 20 push-ups, 30 sit-ups, and you do that 10 times with a 400-meter run or an 800-meter run every set. It's up to you how you want to do that. Your rest is a run. Then the third upper body day workout you do is you do a max rep set workout, which I just explained a minute ago, where you get 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 100 dips, few sets as possible. Can you do it in 4 sets? Can you do it in 5 sets? Usually people are somewhere between 5 and 7 sets. That's pretty good. Some of the gold standards I would say would be 4. If you can do it in 4 sets, that's really good. 3 sets, I have only seen twice in 25 years people be able to do that, but it happens. So, in fact, if you Google the term 3 favorite workouts to crush fitness tests, you will see this article that I wrote. In fact, I'll put it in the comment section for you on Instagram, and I'll put it over here on YouTube as well. Yeah, check that out. It's got all 3 of them right there. It's my favorite week of workouts. When I'm in the calisthenics and cardio phase, when I'm in the lifting phase, it will look completely different. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on ice baths in preparation for Winter Hell Week? Well, here's the deal. You know what? You don't need ice baths. Even like we have a tub in our backyard now, and I didn't really think I would like it that much, but I actually enjoy it, especially in the summer. I was in it this morning. But it wasn't ice. It was just a hose from my spigot, put it into that bucket, basically like a trough for animals. It's not a fancy one that, keeps everything cold. You just put your water hose in there and you sit in it and you go in there for about 10 minutes, cool your body temperature down. But I will tell you this, I mean, it's like 56 degrees, from the ground, which Bud's water will probably not be that cold. Bud's water is somewhere between usually 58 and 70, in that range. It is uncomfortable if you're in there for very long, and you will get cold, but you don't need 40 degree, 30 degree, 35 degree water to prepare for anything that's in San Diego. I promise you that. I mean, if you want to do ice, that's great. Go for it. But I don't think it's necessary. You know, I am finding that it is quite therapeutic to just get in the water, cool down, especially on these hot summer days after a workout. I did it yesterday and I did it today. But I didn't use ice. It was, like I said, water in the 50s, just a cold bath. That's what you got to get used to. You don't need to get used to cold water. So, got 2 questions here. Looks like the same person. Thoughts on the new NSW pipeline? Very interesting. It's still in a question mark phase, if you will. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Naval Academy has always had a bunch of people that want to go spec war. Every year, every class for decades, there's always been about 100 to 150 people put their foot forward and say, I want to try to get a Buds billet. So, because of that big number, the Naval Academy has had its own screener before they send people to SOAS. Now, before SOAS was a thing, back in 2014 was when SOAS's first year came out. It was called Mini Buds, and Mini Buds was simply a familiarization course. Is like a summer cruise for midshipmen. ROTC guys and Naval Academy guys got to go to Buds, do it for 3 weeks, and it was one of those things. If you wanted to come back, you came back, and a lot of people self-selected, self-deselected, and said, you know what? I'm glad I got a taste of it because I really don't want to do that. That's fine too. That's what it's for. Um, so every decade, there's usually a change. Like back in my day in the 80s, whenever we were going through this in the early 90s, um, there was a screener, there was a mini buds program, but guess what? Neither one of them were a requirement to get a buds billet. All you had to do was take a PST, do well on an interview, and you could put your hat in the ring and get a buds billet. And we've had people do that couldn't do a screener because of varsity sports and things like that, different competitions, and they still got a billet. They did well. In fact, we sent 20 people to buds my year, and we graduated 20. In fact, we graduated like 25 because there's about 4 or 5 other guys lateral transferring that became SEALs as well in my class. So that system worked. Why don't we do that? Why did we change that? Right? Well, things change, and that's the way things go. Then when I was a company officer and I ran the program there in the late 90s, it was more of you had to do it. We had 2 screeners. We had a fall and a spring. So athletes in the fall could do it and athletes in the spring could do it depending on when they were on their off season. So we made it mandatory. I didn't. It became mandatory that you had to do the screener, but you didn't have to go to mini buds. And you could still do a billet. You still had to take a PST, had to do the interview, all that process, and you could put your name in the hat and go for it. And that produced great candidates as well. There were a couple of classes that had 100% graduation rate. So why did we change it? I don't know. We just did, and we made changes. I think that's the way it works. Now, I will say this. There's always a safety issue when it comes to changes. I think when you look at previous screeners in the last few years at the Naval Academy, they've been done in the middle of late fall, early winter, where it was 30 degrees and freezing and doing bear crawls on, icy ground. And, we had a lot of hypothermia cases. And I think that sends red flags when you have 20 people going to the hospital. So maybe it was a safety issue that made that decision. I know if I were like a senior officer in charge, I was like, why are we sending all these people to the hospital? Right? That you got to ask that question. What can we do better to make that happen? Do we just go earlier in this? It's what I would do. But, in 2014, they created a whole program where officers from Naval Academy, ROTC, OCS, and lateral transfers all went through the same process, all the same board, all the same processes. It became a selection process. Before that, the only commonality between all 4 branches that were, getting into the Navy officer program was one person. It was the community officer manager, officer community manager, who just oversaw all the boards of ROTC, OCS, lateral transfers, and Naval Academy. And it was 4 separate systems, and one was better than the other. I don't know. You could say that, but what it did is it created 70 plus people usually each year that made it to buds, and you had an attrition rate that was not super high. Some were higher than others each year, but it's just the way it happened. But in 2014, it created a system where there's one standard, one group doing it, and I thought it was great. I thought this is a really good idea, works really well. In fact, I was surprised that the Academy screener was still occurring as it was. And what they did is they sent BUDS instructors out to the Academy to run the Academy screener. And that was good. I thought that was a really good answer. But fast forward 10 years, and there's a new guy in charge, and I think it's moving in the right direction. Personally, I know midshipmen want to have screeners and go through that process. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it might. It might still be a version of the screener that it was like in our day, where it was just a familiarization, right? You went through this weekend long familiarization of what BUDS is like, and you basically made a decision: do I want to go do that again? There was no yeah, there was a standard you had to hit on the PST, and now the HPT, the human performance test, that you have to take in order to get into that screener. I think that's a logical thing to assess. You pass those tests, and then you move forward, and then you decide if you want to stay or go. That's kind of what it is now. There's no real, like, people aren't getting failed out unless they actually fail an event, an objective event. So anyway, there's not a whole lot of answers to it right now. I think it's just in a state of flux, and I think doing it over the summer didn't help things because the communication is not there. So a lot of rumors came into play. I don't know the answer, but I do think that if you just focus on what the standard is, meet and exceed that standard, you're going to be fine. And don't sweat it. Don't be butthurt about not having a screener. I mean, if it was a safety issue that made that decision, I'm all for it. If it was, hey, I want to be in charge of everything, I should be in charge of everything, all the groups going into the SEAL community, okay, I understand that. Understand that as well. That's why we have that whole accession command now. So I'm sorry for the long answer, but I've been dealing with that with a lot of midshipmen at the academy, trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. The right thing to do is crush the PST and the HPT. In fact, funny you should say that, is this program hits both. There's a PST and an HPT workout in it. All right. Stu, can you give advice on shin splints? Been doing tibia raises, sled pulls. Is there anything else that can be done? Yeah, just rest. Go non-impact cardio for a little bit. You're doing the right thing. Just pull back. I mean, there's a couple articles out there that I've written on shin splints. I would recommend Googling those. I wrote it with a doctor of physical therapy, and he's great at diagnosing and coming up with a routine to help you not only relieve it but prevent it as well. So check out that article. Nate says, is the fall transition book going to have similar buds prep workouts like phase 2 Sam Baby Devil Murph? Yes, it does. I don't know if it has the Sam Baby Devil Murph in it. It might. I'm looking out. There's a couple similar workouts to that. Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, this fall workout is a Spec Ops level program. It is running, swimming, rucking. You're going to be doing a lot of bear crawling and calisthenics and weights mixed together and weight vests and sandbags. So yes, it will. I don't know if it has that exact workout in it. I don't do it every week, but we probably, here's something I would do, is just add it once a month. I think it's a good one to add into your program. Let's see. What was the leg exercises you did in your buds time? Well, I was going through buds. What leg exercises? Mostly lunges and squats. That was it. Soft sand runs, rucking, swimming with fins. That's a leg exercise. Fireman carries in the soft sand. Leg exercise. Especially up a sand dune. Leg exercise. So yeah, that's about it. There's no weights to it other than carrying a log, chest carry, or a ruck. Lots of calisthenics. Why is the average age of the Army Special Forces older than the average age of people who are attending BUDS? Is it because BUDS training is more physically demanding? Good question. I don't know why, be honest with you. I think they're both physically demanding. I just think the Army Special Forces primary mission prefers older guys. They want more mature people. And so they will go into the 30s to get them. Whereas, yeah, BUDS training is hard. Hell Week probably takes a few years off your life. Maybe you need a younger body to be able to handle that. I don't know. But that's a good question. What made you want to be a SEAL? Well, I originally joined the Navy to be a pilot. I like most people in the 80s when they saw Top Gun, they're like, all right, that's cool. I'd like to do that. I wanted to play football in college and become a pilot, and I did neither. I didn't make the football team, played rugby instead, had a blast, and hung out with dudes that were becoming Marines and SEALs, and I was like, that's really cool. Like to hang out with them, do some workouts, be better at rugby, be better at physical fitness, and next thing you know, I kind of evolved into that spec ops candidate that I didn't even realize I wanted to be until probably sophomore year, and then I really started to focus on that. And I met some SEALs, and I was like, met some Marines. I was bouncing back and forth which one I wanted to do, and I liked both, respected both. Wanted to be either, really, to be honest with you, and just move forward to do that. I liked the thought that I was going to a training that I was also doing, as well as the enlisted folks that I would be leading, versus being in charge of people that I had no idea how to do the job that they were doing. Not that I could do all the jobs of the enlisted guys in SEAL teams either, but I at least had a broader understanding of what they did, how they did it, and I didn't mind getting my hands dirty, clothes dirty, and getting the job done if I needed to. So I would say that was probably it. Can you explain Navy SARC? My advice is I've written a couple articles on it. You can find it on military.com about the whole process, how to become SARC, Spec Ops, Combat Medic. It's changed a little bit. They've changed some names a little. I think, check this out. It's basically a combat medic, and you are the guy that is the Navy doc corpsman within a recon unit or Marine Corps MARSOC unit. Now, they also have, you'll probably start your process on the green side, which means you'll be a Navy corpsman in the Marine Corps, like infantry program. And then you can, progress, like other Marines do, basically. You're going to have to take Marine Corps fitness tests. You're going to have to go through the recon screener and, recon training, and you'll become recon qualified as a Navy corpsman. So that's how I understand it. They've had a few changes in the last few years. In fact, I don't even think they call it SARC anymore. What do they call it? They call it SARC is now called, I think it's like Dive Medical Qualified. There's a whole variety of. SARC is now called Special Operations Independent Duty Corpsman, SOIDC. So the term SARC stands for Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman, still widely used, but the Navy is now calling them Special Operations Independent Duty Corpsman, SOIDC. So there you go. That's what it is now called. Is Lada swim effective without fins? No. I mean, I guess you can do it, but why would you not want to use your arms and just use your legs without fins? You can try it. Not sure it's going to be that helpful. You're just going to get your legs tired. It's like swimming with a kickboard. What's the difference? Get better at flutter kicking, I guess. Can you explain the day in the life of a Navy diver wanting to join Navy Dive? Navy, I speak with the recruiter on Friday, but not sure which rate I want to do. But I want to go Spec Ops. Here's the deal, man. Don't even talk to a recruiter until you're crushing that PST. Right? You need to be able to crush that PST and comfortable in the water before you go talk to a recruiter. I'm assuming that's what you are, but don't just go into it blind and say, oh, the Navy's going to prepare me. It's not how it works. I mean, the Navy is going to test you in the PST and other events, and you need to be able to crush those, or you're never going. You're going to be on their timeline versus your own. So don't be in a hurry to go talk to or sign any paperwork. You can go talk to a recruiter, that's fine, but don't sign any paperwork to join the delayed entry program until you are crushing that fitness test. That's just my advice. And if any recruiter tells you differently, that, oh, you'll have plenty of time to train. Well, you might be able to train for the PST, but are you training for what's after the PST, which is dive school and SWIC school and SEAL training? So don't be in a hurry. Read some articles on how to be a good recruit. In fact, recruits, Spec Ops, Stu Smith. So Google that term and you'll see an article called Recruit. Be a better recruit. So here, check this out. Read this article before you go sign your life away. Be ready to do that. I always tell people, don't sign just because you turned 18. Sign when you are ready to crush that fitness test. Let's see. You guys are starting to ask questions now. So somebody asked, should I be practicing my PST swim in 50-meter pools as well as 25-meter pools? Did my first swim in a 50-meter pool, and my times were expected different. Yeah, they're going to be about 20 to 30 seconds slower. So, yes, if you can practice in bigger pools, do it, but really just get faster in a 25-meter pool if that's all you have, and add 20 to 30 seconds to your time because that's how it's going to be. Is HPT comparison to PST more generalized strength test, seeing exactly how strong you really are? Yeah, I mean, it's just different events. I mean, you have similar events. You have weight vest pull-ups, you have body weight bench press, you have deadlifts, you have a speed and agility, you have a 300-yard shuttle run, which is 12 by 25 yard race. Try to get that under a minute. You have a 3-mile run and you have an 800-meter swim. So it's PST similar, but also different. Um, any advice on knee pain? Ran a half marathon this weekend. My left knee, when standing on it, moving it a certain way is painful. Yeah, that's what happens after you run a half marathon, especially if you didn't train right for it. You're going to be sore. So, you got a choice. You train properly before you go run 13 to 26 or more miles, or um, now suffer the consequences of not doing so and just treat yourself like you're injured and do non-impact cardio, stretch, foam roll, massage it, anti-inflammatory medication for tendonitis probably be helpful. Were you officer enlisted? I was officer. I went to the Naval Academy and became an officer after I graduated. Also, is there an article on your mobility days? Yes, dozens. Want to add one in my week, but not going through your specific programs at all. That's all right. Well, I mean, I put them all in my programs, but I put things out there for the world to use because they are so good. And in fact, you can look up the article "Don't Skip Mobility Day" by me, and you can add it to your week where you want it. But I implement these into my programming, and I think everybody else should too, because it is life changing. If you're old like me, you need it. If you're young, you need to learn how to do it, and you may need it to help you with swimming better and running more efficiently, because it's going to open up some range of motions in your hip, knees, and ankles. That just makes it better. And it's going to make your shoulders looser so you can actually get in a streamlined body position and look like a torpedo and not a plow, which is most people's problem whenever they are trying to glide. Let's see, at USMC TBS right now, any advice on self training while here to best prepare for future training? Yeah, you know what? Your days are hard some days are not. My advice is pick some days into the week where you can add in some extra workouts, nothing crazy, PT pyramids, kettlebell swings, things like that. Don't go too crazy with it because you may go too crazy one day and then you got a you know 15-mile ruck the next day and your legs are dying. So yeah, be careful with that. But I think it's necessary a lot, 30, 45 minutes, and I think you're covered. So just do an upper body day, lower body day split, or if you're only doing a couple a week, do a full body day. Do like a Murph workout. Maybe 50% of a Murph, even if you have to. Get something in. Do a pyramid to do. I mean, something you could intermediate or helping you recover. Said, do you ever have down through? How'd you crush those and move forward? Um, I think there were doubts going in, and definitely when you were there, they kind of went away once you were there. Be honest with you, I think a lot of self doubt starts with anxiety, but once you're in the game, it's it's a whole different mindset of pushing through that. Yeah, there are people that have doubts there. I don't know how to get over it, but I'll be honest with you. Um, you know, did I question myself if I really wanted this a couple of times? Sure, I did, and but I also knew I didn't want to quit. So I don't know how to answer that question really. I mean, check out this. There's a whole lot of answers to the never quit mindset, crushing doubt. In fact, we all have doubt. Welcome to being human. We all fear failure, but if you understand that failure can be a learning experience, it's not as bad as you anticipate or have that anxiety about failing. Right? Especially if you realize that, yeah, if I don't succeed today, I'll learn from it and be better tomorrow. That's the way you gotta look at it. You gotta look at it short term versus if I fail, I'm done. Stu, I hit a 7 minute swim or a 7 mile swim yesterday. Hitting the pool now. Should I CSS only? I mean, I don't know why you did 7 miles personally. Good job though. I mean, I'd take a day off if I were you. I mean, that's probably what, 3 hours in the water? Yeah. I don't know. It's not necessary. Yeah, but just do CSS or just tread, keep your head out of the water. Make sure you don't get ear infections. All right. Last question. Word around town is all classes are push classes since 368 because the numbers are down. Thoughts? I don't have any thoughts on that, to be honest with you. And I'm not really sure what a push class is. Does that just mean that we're pushing people through or pushing people to have a higher attrition rate? I don't know. Be honest with you. Numbers might be down, but the numbers going through buds are not. So I think you're still going to have high attrition rates out there, especially when you start 200 people each class for the next 3 classes. That's a lot of people that start. I mean, most classes are starting 120, 150. So there's a lot of people there. Maybe they'll get, if they still have a 75% attrition rate, the numbers may appear bigger because of that, because you may have graduating classes in the 50s, right? So, all right. I'm going to have to go. You guys have a good day, and I will catch you guys later this week. I'll have a Never Quit Mindset podcast and Q&A later this weekend, probably Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I'm not sure what my schedule is, but if you guys subscribe over here on YouTube, you'll be able to, check your notification. I'll have an email get sent to you, or look for me on YouTube live if you're on, or Instagram would be live over there as well. All right, guys, I got to go. You guys have a good one, and I will see you later.